Welcome to my talk on forming a quality community. I've been a tester for over 14 years at Society Netherlands. So I'm in consultancy, which means I've seen a lot of different clients, worked in different types of companies. And let me share with you a little bit of the background of why I chose this topic. So a couple of months ago, I gave a training together with a colleague of mine at a large company. And we had a mixed set of participants. Most of them were testers, but not all. But it turns out that within this company, all of the teams didn't speak to each other. They only worked in their own little islands. And every time we started a new subject within the training, they started talking to each other and they said, "Oh, is that how you do it? Oh, we do it very differently. We have a very different approach. Oh, that's so neat." So they learned about as much from each other as they learned from us. And it was incredibly eye-opening to them that everybody was doing something different. And to me, it was eye-opening as well. Why isn't there a quality community in this company? Why are these people not talking to each other? So that made me realize that this really is a topic that should be addressed more. And it is a great way for QA professionals to really take the lead in this and really show that quality is something we should all do. And on the other hand, like I said, I work in a consultancy company. And within our company itself, we are also working very hard at community building within the testing community. So that is a community only for testers. But there's a lot of overlap in how you build community and a community sense. So I'm right in the middle of that because I am a member of our core team for the testing community. So I can also share some experiences from that. So when you want to form a quality community, there's a lot of questions that you need to think about. And don't worry, we will go over all of them. And some of them are more easy than others. So let's start with the simple ones. The what. So what type of community do you want to start? Does it need to be a really formal one, only about knowledge sharing and resource sharing, or can it be informal, more of a social meetup? Don't worry, later on I will share some examples of good practices which generally combine the formal and informal. Then where? Like I said, within my consultancy company, it's a community for testers only. So the where also defines the who and perhaps the how. But like I want to stress, as I saw within the training, it's very valuable to do it within a company, to do it over the different disciplines. And when should you do it? Well, of course, when you're ready to take the lead, right? That's what this event is all about. But I know reality is a bit different. It's more something that you can do when you're feeling stuck, when you're feeling stuck in your own development. Like you feel you cannot learn anything new in this team, or you just don't have the motivation to start learning. Or when you're actually trying to make changes, when you're actually trying to get those improvements implemented. And you just feel like you're the only one in your team who seems to care about quality. And you're just not getting that leverage to actually make changes. Or perhaps you're feeling a bit insecure about changes you want to make. Now, as soon as people start questioning you, you're like, well, yeah, is this really the best idea? Maybe I should reference it somewhere. Or when you're feeling stuck, when you feel like you keep inventing the wheel. And you just have this feeling of, well, there must have been somebody else who encountered this issue before. But you just don't know where to find those within your company. So really, you need other people for this. So realistically, these are more valid reasons to start forming a quality community. And there are a lot of benefits to be had. So I gathered them in 4 different categories. So the first is the hard skills. Now, this is really the knowledge sharing itself, but also sharing tools and resources, making them accessible to all teams and aligning processes. a great benefit to make your company more efficient, get the teams more streamlined. But there's also the support factor. Especially for newcomers to the company or people who are new to the quality mindset, or if you want to take them along in that quality mindset, mentoring is a great way. And like I said, when you feel stuck in your own development, a little bit of encouragement can go a long way. So, and also, of course, networking, collaboration. And that's why it's really valid to do it within a company and go over disciplines. Get all sorts of people in there because that's how you build a strong network. But of course, we're here to drive change. We actually want to make changes. We want to improve. And when you're with a whole community, you get a lot more leverage to drive change. You also get to do it a bit more in a professional way, which really appeals to management in my experience. The more professional it looks, the more people you have behind you, the more easy it becomes to actually get leverage. And it also helps to organize events, but also think about how you can set up work groups for innovation. It's something you can already take time to look ahead and make sure your company stays, at the top of the game. Now, my last category is one that I think is often overlooked. So these are really, functional things, really things you can do, active. But my last category is emotional. It's perhaps silly to talk about this in a work situation, but you really shouldn't overlook the joy of connecting with like-minded people. Especially if you keep feeling like you're the only one who cares about quality in your team, then, that really drags on you. Joining a community can really help you prevent burnout. It can give you a sense of belonging and of purpose. And it also acts as a soundboard. It acts as a soundboard if you want to vent some frustrations, or if you have a good idea, but you want to try it out first before you actually bring it to your team. So emotional side of things, a bit strange to talk about it in a work situation, but for me, this is something you should not overlook. So, time to send out the invitations. And who are we going to invite? I think this one is pretty obvious. We are right there in the quality section, so QA takes the lead, right? But if I look back at the training, we also had developers and analysts. And these three groups of people immediately started comparing workload, approaches. They got really excited about working together. And together, they also immediately spotted that there were quality gains to be had in the requirements phase. Something that wasn't very clear before because, well, not only did the teams not talk to each other, also within the teams, communication was not that great. And who else was there? We also had a product owner. And as soon as she heard about the heavy workload, she saw potential improvements. She was ready to step up as a bridge between the team and management. So business stakeholders can definitely be here. They also care about the quality of your end product, of whatever you're developing, but also they care about the team, if you're lucky. And then we had a strange one. This training was about business intelligence and data testing. So we had a data steward. And I was a bit hesitant about this, like, what are we going to teach a data steward? But this really drives home that point of the emotional connection, because this company only had one data steward, and he was just happy to get to know people. But in this training, he didn't know anybody in this group. And he didn't realize that testers and developers really had a need for clear data guidelines. The data teams here were, there was a lot of issues with data formats, with unclear requirements. And the data steward was, he was so excited about getting to know people and about realizing that other people really cared about data quality and had some ideas about data quality. So don't assume that when somebody is not really within the IT team that they don't care about quality. Really, invitations can go everywhere. So who else? Well, at my current client, I ran into a situation that I think many of you have seen before. Yeah, we had a logging issue. Well, logging into an application is a pretty big deal. But reports from production, there were not a lot of customers reporting this. And we had spent so much time and effort already on it, and we didn't really know the prevalence of it. So how many users actually had this? And the customers that reported it, also in their logging, we couldn't see enough. We couldn't turn on the extensive logging. It was just frustrating. But our business stakeholder had a good idea, and he connected us to marketing man. Oh, actually, it was two marketing guys, but they got in the marketing department. And, it turns out marketing people are really passionate about quality. They are so closely involved in customer satisfaction that they care about quality from that perspective. Now, this is a commercial company, so customer satisfaction is especially important because otherwise people will go to the competition. Simple as that. And these marketing guys were fascinated by our situation. So they jumped in to help. We sent out a questionnaire to all of the beta users and I think a percentage of regular users. And we asked them if they had any logging issues and how often. And if they did have them often, if they were willing to share their account number so we can check the loggings. And in the end, we did find the root cause of the issue. We managed to solve it with help from marketing of all people. And I think I speak for all of us. When you're in an IT development team, you don't generally talk to marketing. And why not? They handle the project.
I would jump in and say that we don't bite as marketing.
Yeah. Yeah, and you also very much care about your product, the way you sold it just before my presentation. So if we circle back to the who, well, operations, of course, they get the reports from production, but also marketing. They can actively reach out to production. They can really help you, and this really closes the loop, becoming full circle now. Development all the way to experience of actual customers. So this is a more holistic approach to your quality community. Just invite everybody who seems to care about quality. Don't be a gatekeeper. So now we get to the how. So what should we actually do with this quality community? But before you start, there are some pitfalls that you need to think about, and you can prevent them. So one of them is that your community lacks structure. So it's good to always appoint a lead or be the lead yourself. It's good to have like a point of contact. Or within my consultancy company, the community is so large that we created a core group. And every member has their own portfolio topic. So mine is data testing. And we actually have somebody who is now tasked with the portfolio community building. So he is about getting people involved and excited about quality. Now, next is that you're still not getting the leverage. And then it's really good to try and find a sponsor on management level, somebody who really believes in that quality mindset. And this might be difficult, but it is worth it. It is worth to really try and find somebody. They can also sometimes get you actual resources. And last is a lack of engagement from your members. And this is why I say it's good to switch between formal and informal meetups. Some people really come for knowledge, and other people come for the sense of connection. So it's nice to switch up. And don't be too hard on people. Don't push them to always change, change, change. Sometimes it's nice to just share stories. So now, of course, you also want to have some actual practical tips on what to do. I also advise you to Google on this because there are so many great ideas out there. But something I always love is lean coffee. So this is where you come together, you brainstorm on ideas, you vote on them, and then you talk about the highest voted ideas. It really ensures that you have engagement because you really get the topics that people want to talk about. At my own company, we do something called lunch and learn. So over lunch, we have a learning session. And we started out with these on knowledge sharing. So a topic, and you just got some knowledge sharing on that. I also did one on data testing, of course. But we found that the number of participants was declining. And we switched to experience stories. And suddenly the number of participants went up again. So this is a good tip. People really want to hear stories of how other people did stuff, how a certain situation was handled in the team, or just something cool that happened. So we switched it up completely to experience stories. Nice. Ask me anything. Always make sure you have this in place. For us, we have a chat group, which is really low effort but high reward. But it's also nice to do it as an event. Do a panel session with the not so obvious participants of your quality community, like that marketing guy. And some other ideas, there's a lot of things you can do. So you always hear people talking about sharing successes. And I always also like to share my oopsies, the things I did wrong, because it really shows how easy it is to do something wrong and how you can learn from that. And also, I think future-proofing work groups, setting that up is nice as a more long-term thing to do. Lunch and learn sessions are short, panel sessions, you can do short meetings, but sometimes you need a bit of more time. So work groups to talk about AI and how your company can benefit from it, how you could use it, how different disciplines can make use of it. That's something you want to handle more in a work group kind of session. So that means that there's a lot that you can potentially do, but you really need to find out what works for your company. Like we found out that lunch and learn sessions on knowledge didn't work as well as sessions on experience. So this is really why I want to stress that you don't have to push too hard on people to change. It is nice to share ideas about how to do things better or come up with strategies or come up with new processes. But people really care about sharing experiences, about hearing how somebody else did something. That often triggers a good idea for somebody or just some feedback. It's that feeling of being heard and of soundboarding and of getting some new feedback, new ideas. So experience stories are really good, and that's how lean coffee also works. I mean, you decide together on the topics that you're gonna talk about, which means that often very relevant things for people come up. But like I said, really use Google or use your AI to find some fun ideas to do within your quality community, because there are many, many ideas out there. But what I really want to drive home is that QA can take the lead in this. Not only because we are very close to quality, but also it is a good way to show how much you actually do with quality, how you can take other people along in that quality mindset. Because like Noah said in the beginning, a lot of feedback you hear from testers is the feeling that you're seen just as a bug finder, or you're the end of the line and development takes all the credit. But we all work together on quality. And in my experience, since we started working more agile and DevOps, I'm often the only tester in the team. And that means that I have to set up the whole testing. I have to set up a strategy. And often I carry that quality mindset and I have to bring it out to the other team members. So I think that our testing role has changed a lot, become a lot more professional in a way that, not just hitting buttons. There's a lot of thought behind how we test, what we test, and how we try to improve, shift left, but also shift right, getting ops involved. So I think as QA professionals, we often have a good viewpoint on setting up a community like this. You have a good viewpoint of all the people that can be involved in quality. And you are like the center point in that. So this is something really you can take credit for yourself. Not let the devs get all the credit. This is something that you can set up and drive home. But don't be a gatekeeper. Quality is not something we have to gatekeep. We don't have to keep it for ourselves and say, well, no, I am the only quality lead here. I do all the quality. That's not how it works. Sure, you could take a lot of credit for the quality that you do, but to me, getting credit for it is also that I can show how much I share my quality ideas, that I can convince others about quality. That's where the credit is. So don't be a gatekeeper. Anybody who cares about quality can join and should join. Don't forget about that. Also, really not only invite people who want to join, also try to make people join. Because there are always people out there who you think that they can really use some extra quality checks. Try to convince those people. Get them in, get them involved. And like I said, that the idea of having a sponsor on management level, make sure to just give those potential benefits. Say how important it is that we have a good quality community, how important it is that we can actually make changes, and how professional you can be in your approach when you're with a big group of people. So this is really the point I wanted to drive home as a key takeaway, that QA takes the lead, but don't be a gatekeeper. So that is my story. And I am curious if there are any questions. Also, I will join for a bit longer in this event. So if there are any questions later on, put them in the chat and I can always answer them.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. I do want to ask one question. I think that someone wrote to me on the chat. But before I'll start with that and then address another point. One thing is that you've mentioned that in an agile team, you're sometimes the only QA. And I would probably ask if you have any advice on how I should start if I'm already a minority in my group, how I should be the one who form a quality community or suggest something like that if I'm overtasked anyway with stuff that I just have to test all the time, so I don't have enough time to start a community. If you have, I
That
think
is a
this
very
is
valid point.
a
Yeah,
common
time is always
concern.
an issue. Yeah. And this is why you also want to have that management sponsor to help you get time. But the first steps to do is I always try to find other testers within the company, because there often are other teams. You may be the only tester in your team, but I can assure you you're never the only tester within the company. There's always somebody else. So try to find those other teams and first make that connection to the other testers. And then as a group of testers, that makes it easier to start a community. So first you make it a testing community. Keep it small and try to align processes, improve stuff. See if you can save time by doing things more efficient. But also share this. Share those ideas that you had. Share with your business stakeholder or your product owner, scrum master, or whatever you have above you. Share that you've joined a group of a community of testers, and that you're already making improvements. That already helps to get that leverage, that management understands what you're doing, and that there's also already benefits coming from it. From there, you can build it out. So as soon as you have some results or something you can share, like, oh, I heard a good idea that's happening in another team, they approach things like this. Shall we give it a try? I find that often then it becomes easy to get a bit of time for this. That you then share, well, we already have some benefits from this, but we really want to expand on it. We think we can do more, but I want a bit of time for it. And that doesn't guarantee that you get it. I understand there are companies, there are businesses where there's never room for improvement. And I hate those because there's always room for improvement. But yeah, I have been in a situation where I had to do things extra besides my work. But as soon as benefits are starting to come in, then I can push for time. So yeah, if you have a tough spot, it requires a bit of extra effort before you can get that leverage. I'm sorry.
No, I think that's an honest answer. We're not promising, we're not over promising anything. Before we'll get to the next question, I will squeeze in again yet another short marketing pitch, but not just. I think that trying to reuse elements from other teams is definitely something that can save time and free a little bit more time to do so. That's one point. And another point, which we will later address in some other sessions, but I did want to put it into your context as well, is the fact that QA can take the lead, by the way, even if you're not in an official leadership role. But for those of you who are a little interested in that direction as well, I think that one room for professional growth is to identify opportunities and stuff that can be better and are not being done by other people. So this is a little bit of the stuff that we're going to talk about in the North American part of today, is that if you find those gaps, and you are the one who are taking ownership and leadership, this is a great way for QA to take the lead because it's forming something new. It's helping you, your team, and the company improve, and this is a great way for improvement. So this is one point. Suzanne, if you still have time for additional question from the audience, is someone asked, how do you set up the QA process and a new team and decide on the tools? This is quite a large question.
Yeah.
Before I'll hand over to you, I'll do a teaser. The end of this day, which going to be late for some of you, so look out for the recording. Zashmina is going to give a session about QA process dedicated for this question, but again, handing over to your experience, to your feedback about this, if you may.
Well, deciding on tools, this is exactly where a community is great to use. Because you're not the only team who's looking into tooling. You're not the only one who's thinking, well, we could do this faster with a certain tool. So this is where you shop around. Shop around at those other teams. What are you using? Because often introducing a new tool to a company is not that easy. It's often better to already use what is there. And also, if other teams are already using a certain tool, that means the knowledge is already available. People already know how it works and what are good practices with it. But this is exactly why you want to have a community. You can share resources, that you can see the other tools that people use. And how I set up testing, I've really delved into test strategy. So you can actually look up the recordings from PractiTest, because last year on online test conf, I did a session on a very practical approach to test strategy. And I suggest you look that up. I use it everywhere I go.